Hi, my name is Brendan of Approaching Jupiter, and this is
Emme.
Today we're doing a artist highlight. I got some questions for you. Just what's going on, learn more about you, who you are as an artist, and kind of what's coming in the future.
Cool.
All right. First up, what inspired you to start making music?
I always loved making music. I started playing piano when I was 6, and I would always get in trouble with my piano teacher because instead of practicing my songs, I was writing my own little tunes at the piano, and so it just spiraled from there. I always wanted to be a singer, loved writing songs, and never stopped.
Sweet. What were your biggest influences growing up? And if there was an album or a song that you could pinpoint as one of the most influential for you as a creative, what would it be?
Well, when you grow up, you always kind of start just like listening to your parents' music. And so for like the first little bit of my life, I was just listening to whatever they put on in the car. And then one day I discovered an artist, a Canadian artist named Lights. And she was the first artist that I discovered on my own as a 10-year-old. And I just absolutely fell in love. She did a lot of like pop electronic stuff. She had like a really cool vocal tone. And she was really became a huge inspiration in my music going forward as an artist.
Okay, so something people may not know about you is you also produce as well as being a songwriter. Before we get into that, can you tell me some of the instruments you play or maybe some of your production inspirations and such like that?
I play guitar, piano, and I sing. A lot of my production I do is vocal based. I like to use my voice as a primary instrument and layer vocal stacks and different backgrounds. In the past, I've used it, I've recorded it as an instrument and, edited it and chopped it up and stuff. And so that would be kind of what drives my production sound. And I obviously draw a lot of inspiration from other talented artists like Lights I mentioned before, and Gracie Abrams. I love her acoustic work. And other really great pop singer-songwriters.
Nice. Have you felt that being a female in the producer space, which is historically a pretty male-dominated industry, do you feel like have you ever felt overlooked? Can you tell me more about your experience as a woman being a producer and a songwriter in this industry as it changes?
Yeah. I've always worked with men on everything, so. It is kind of what it is. When I did my degree at McEwen, I was in a class full of all guys. I was the only girl who graduated in a class full of all dudes. And, sometimes I often felt like I had something to prove because of it, because I was the only girl there. And I don't know if that's a self-inflicted, you just feel kind of left out because you're the only female there. But I always just worked hard, and graduated top of my class because of it. I didn't let any of those fears or doubts kind of pull me down. And now, I'm just really thankful to be working in this industry and to have the opportunity to do this full time and to make music. And, no matter, I haven't had any negative experiences. I'd say everybody that I've worked with has always been very respectful. But yeah, sometimes it can be a little daunting when you first get into the scene and everybody around you is a guy, and you just have to, be careful and be safe as always, but work hard and you'll get there.
What's maybe a few words of advice that you could give some maybe young and upcoming producers and songwriters and young women trying to get into this? What's some advice that you could give?
It's probably cliche, but just be yourself and just do you, and try not to listen to all the noise. It's so easy to just get caught up in I think I need to be like this artist and I think I need to be like this artist. There's so many times when an album comes out by a new artist and I'm like, oh, maybe I should be making music like that, even though it's totally not me at all, but it sounds good and they're doing well. So I'm like, maybe my music should sound like that. But just stay true to you. And just do what drives you and what is your passion and what fuels you as an artist, and don't compare yourself to the other artists around you.
Love it. That's some great words. That's some great words of advice. All right, can you tell me more about your own process and what songwriting looks like and the projects that you're involved with, either for Emme or otherwise? Yeah.
So my songwriting process, I'd say I'm very lyrically driven. Even in the music that I listen to, I'm not somebody who's just like a beats production person. I listen to the words. And so when I write music, I'm very, I try to make sure that my songs are saying something. I don't like to just write like dance party songs, even though those can be great too in their own way. But I like to make sure that my music is backed with more meaning, and says something, So I'd say that's probably my approach to it first and foremost. And production wise, it's just whatever suits the song, whatever helps bring those lyrics to light in the best way.
What's a weird or unexpected scenario or situation that has inspired a song in your life? Do you have one that comes to mind? By your face, it feels like a few of them.
Oh, I gotta think. I mean, I wrote a lot of really weird songs as a teenager, specifically in like...
We all did.
in like junior high. I mean, you can ask my parents. There's some weird stuff that I wrote that was really angsty. Like, like when you're like 13 and you're like, I'm making the most sad, like moody, beautiful song, and it was just really weird. I was really, during like junior high, I discovered Lorde for the first time, who I love. She's like amazing, but she just had such a unique lyric writing style. Like sometimes her lyrics were like, what are you talking about? Like you don't really know. And so
very
especially
abstract,
not as a 13-year-old, I didn't understand. And so I was like, I'm going to write like that. And so I just wrote lyrics that didn't make sense and put them to like little beats that I programmed on my iPad. And those are somewhere. They will never see the light of day. I'm sure my parents have them somewhere, but that's probably some of the weirdest music that I made.
Nice. So currently you are a fully independent artist. You're not represented by a label or anything. What is the biggest challenge you face as an independent artist? And then the flip side to that, what do you love about it? Because you have worked with labels. This is something you're part of, but...
Well, I love being independent, and it's always been a very big priority of mine to remain independent. I like to own my work, and I'm kind of a control freak when it comes to making music, and so...
Most artists are, respectfully.
Yeah, I like to be in charge. I like to be, like, I produce, a lot of my work. I write it all myself. Like, I like to be at the forefront of my music. It is definitely... It's harder because you don't have the push that a label would give you, the marketing and the audience reach that a label gives you, and obviously the financial backing that they would give you. You don't have that either. And so often that means working a side job in order to fund my music, But at the same time, I don't think I would trade the independent experience for anything, because just being able to have creative control and, expand organically, I think is such a rewarding way to do it.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer. How do you balance staying creative and then, like you said, any other outside jobs, managing income, and, that business side and being creative? How do you strike that balance?
It's a hard one. I work like 4 jobs right now. Like, I recently put together a resume for a grant, and I was like, I have 4 jobs, and I didn't even realize that I had 4 jobs just to bring in income, pay the bills, and fund my music. So it's really hard, days that I'm like, if I work in the office, I have an office job. I normally come home and I'm really tired, and it's really hard to be creative. But I try to you try to there's like that trend, the spoon trend. Have you seen that? Where this where you use this.
No, go on. You're doing good.
Okay. It's like where you put down a spoon for every time you do a task that uses a bit of your energy. So I try to conserve my energy throughout the day. So if I'm working in the office, I'm going to be like very focused, like try and just get that done. Try to not like drain my mental so that I can come home and be creative if I still need to be. So yeah, it's a balance, but luckily being creative is the fun part. Right?
Yeah, in some ways it's probably recharging the soul a little bit.
It feels rewarding to be able to like come home and make a song, like it doesn't feel draining to me. So yeah, in that sense it's good.
What's a lesson you've learned on your musical journey that you wish you knew sooner?
I wish that I just wish that I had worked with more people sooner in my career, because my first debut album, EP, everything was self-produced, self-mixed. I did everything alone in my basement. And then when it came time for me to work with other people, I was like, you have opinions about my song that I made perfectly? What do you mean? Because I just never had other people involved in like the creative process and like contributing things back and forth, and I would get feedback and I'd be like, who are you to tell me about how to write this song or whatever? But it's turned out to be a much better process because it helps you obviously refine the songwriting, refine the production. You get you just get that fun of like going back and forth with somebody and getting to make something with somebody. So I just wish that I had learned how to do that sooner than later, because it's definitely a more rewarding process, and it definitely was a learning experience for me. It was. So
well, let's talk about some of that early work. Like, can you walk me through sort of your history as an artist and maybe a bit of your discography for anyone who maybe hasn't heard anything yet?
Yeah, so I started releasing music in 2020, I believe. I put out my first single, Dear Anxiety, which I produced myself. And then I had a few more singles, and then I dropped my debut EP, Earthquake, which kind of really like set the scene for me as an artist. And following Earthquake was Avalanche, my full-length album. And Avalanche was like a continuation off of Earthquake, so it featured the acoustic versions of all the Earthquake songs, and then went into the second half of like a fully produced Avalanche album. And so it was a really big project, and a much bigger undertaking than I think I understood at the time. But to be able to create like a 2-part album essentially that has like that transitioned good and didn't feel like not cohesive and whatnot. So that was like my first like really big project as an artist. And then going forward, I've released more singles. I've kind of spent the last few years just like refining my sound as an artist and really figuring out like what I want my stuff to say and how I want it to sound. So I've put out a lot of other singles, notably like Ugly Tears and Growing Pains. And then just this last Christmas, I dropped a little Christmas EP that was really fun because I really like Christmas music and I sing it all the time, all year long. So yeah, that was really fun for me.
Yeah, awesome. Let's just go back to Avalanche, since that's sort of the capstone of your discography right now. It's the biggest project you have out. When you were making that, what else was going on with you? Like, you were in school at the same time, and you were, probably working too. Like, what was balancing an entire album on your own along with school and other things? What was that like?
Well, Avalanche was my graduation capstone project. So it, like, in terms of school, like, I was in full-time classes at the time, and I was teaching voice lessons on the side. So it was busy. It was really busy. But knowing that Avalanche was like for school, I think kind of helped a little bit. It was also for me, right? Like, it wasn't just a school project. Like, I didn't need to do such an elaborate graduation project, but I was just like, hey, if this is my chance to make an album, I'm gonna do it. So it was a lot of really late nights. Late for me, late for like midnight. Like I normally go to bed at like 9 or 10.
That's an early night for me.
Yeah.
We're sleeping good.
So for me to go to bed at midnight, that I was working. I was really working. And so, yeah, I just remember like I would get home from school and I would just go straight downstairs to the studio and I would write and record. But it was so much fun because I was so excited to be putting together an album that I was just like, I look back on it, not like, it just seems like one of the most fun, like most fulfilling times of my life because I was just having so much fun putting it together. So, you know, obviously I was tired, and by the time it came out, I was dead and very burnt out, but it was very rewarding. So,
yeah. So this album also landed you a pretty notable scholarship. Could you tell me maybe a bit more about that?
Yes. So Avalanche, because of Avalanche, I graduated top of my class, and because of that, I was nominated for the Music Counts, the 2022 Accelerate Scholarship, and got it. I had like a whole application I had to do, and yeah, I got it, and it was like a full mentorship experience. It was like I got to meet a whole bunch of other talented students and musicians and artists from across Canada. I got music lessons and like, you know, I got to meet like labels and booking agents and so many different people. Like there was like a full 2 weeks of sessions that I got to go through, which was really cool. And yeah, it was a really good experience, and it was nice to be, you know, recognized for the hard work that I put into Avalanche. So
yeah, and very well deserved. You've also played live quite a bit throughout your time as a musician, starting pretty young. Could you tell me about your live sound journey, playing shows and all that?
Yeah, I started when I was 15. I think 15. I played shows a lot with some friends, and was joined a artist collective called Pure Artists, which was led by Wes and Abba, who is a beautiful, wonderful man. He became like a music mentor to me in high school, and he basically ran this artist collective at the time that was designed to give young artists a safe place to perform and to share their music, so that, you know, us 15-year-olds weren't like in bars and stuff, you know, like, so he would organize like charity events and stuff for us to play at, and like just safe places like cafes and stuff that our families could come and we could practice performing. And then on top of that, he would help us produce YouTube videos and record covers and stuff. And so a lot of my live journey started there, which I'm really grateful for, that I had like a safe community to, because, you know, when you're 15, like I wasn't that great, you know, I'm much better now. So, you know, when you're 15, to have like a safe community to like try things and just learn, like I feel so much more confident as a performer now, because I can guarantee that the worst of the worst has happened to me on stage. And so I just have lots of experience backing me in that way. And then, you know, going into my degree and stuff, I played a lot more shows. I did like a full independent release concert for Avalanche, which was a huge undertaking, but probably one of the biggest concerts I've played, and was really fun.
Right. That was going to be my next question. Do you have a favorite show that you've played, or most memorable?
Probably the release concert for Avalanche. That one was, like I said, it was fully independent, so I played only independent original music. I worked with other independent local artists, and, you know, it was a lot of work. It was probably, honestly, sometimes it feels like it was more work than the album itself just to put on that concert.
And is that in terms of, you know, getting the venue booked, getting live sound sorted, who's doing back end, like,
yes,
kind of that stuff?
It felt like, and this is kind of funny, but I remember telling my mom afterwards, I was like, it feels like I'm planning a wedding. Like that's what it felt like. Like I had to get like decorations and like table placements, and made sure the venue was set up according to plan, organizing the stage, the lights, the sound. Like it was a whole, like I did it all. So I think going forward, I'd probably have more of a team involved in that. But it was definitely like, by the time we like got up there on stage, like it was just so fun. It was like everything I wanted for it. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. Do you have a favorite fan interaction?
I get lots of messages whenever I release a song. My favorites are always the ones of people saying that like they relate or it touched them. I think the most prominent fan interaction that I remember was the first time I was recognized out in public by a stranger, which is honestly I was not expecting, because I'm not that big of an artist. I'm pretty small, like a small little independent artist. But I was at the mall with my sister, and this lady came up to me and she was like, "Are you Emme?" She was like, "I follow you." She was like, "I love your music." And I was like, "I don't know you. That's great." And it was so exciting. And I still remember it because I was just like over the moon, to know that there's at least one other person out there that listens to my music.
That's
So
awesome. That's awesome. Well, being an artist can be a really vulnerable thing, like we've talked about, and especially when you write personal music like you do, really trying to talk about the meaning. How have you experienced any self-doubt, or everyone calls it imposter syndrome, throughout your career? And if so, how have you kind of dealt with that? Or what things have, kept you pushing through that?
Oh, I feel that like every day, every waking minute of my life. I feel some sort of imposter syndrome. It's just what it is, as an artist. You see other artists take off around you. You see, big artists, like A-list celebrities, just like selling out millions and millions of shows and stuff. And it's just like, you're like, how on earth am I ever going to get there? I'm working 4 jobs. I'm like busting my butt trying to get music out and stuff. And, it's kind of like, it's also what drives you, like, it's like you kind of like, I have to make it. I have to do this because, well, quite frankly, I'm not good at anything else. This is all I got. So I gotta do this. But also, like, it's what fulfills me, and it's what feels fulfilling as like a person and in my soul, like I know that this is what I want to do. And I just gotta keep pushing through,
Totally. Well, you just touched on it, leading to my next question. What is your definition of making it? Because this is something we talk about all the time, and I think it's probably very different between all kinds of people in this industry. What to you, or what's maybe the main goal for you that you could reach and be like, this is where I feel like I've made it?
I would love to quit my day job. That is, I think, would be like a sign to me. Like, I would be content if I could just make a living off of the music that I make. In whatever, however many revenue streams that may look like, if it's like producing, songwriting, the music that I release, if I could make a living off of just doing music, I think I would be like, I don't need to be a big star. That's never really been the goal. It's just to like make good music, and music that touches people, and music that feels fulfilling to make, and to make that my career. Like, I'd love to not work 4 jobs. I'd love to just have this be my job all the time.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. Being able to almost just not have to worry about all of the other life stuff. You can just put your being into making and have that continue. Awesome. I have one last question, and that is, do you have any dream projects either within music, or do you have any other ambitions maybe outside of, or in the envelope of 10, 20-year goals that you may want to get to? Or
I don't know. That's a great question. Well, right now I am working on album number 2, which feels kind of like a dream project. I feel like it, when I came up with the concept for it, it just felt like the most.
Do we get to know?
Sure. It's called Wallflower.
You heard it here first. Wallflower.
It's called Wallflower.
Sorry, continue.
And I just feel like when I came up with the title for it, I was like, that is the most Emily project I've maybe ever come up with. If you don't know me, I'm a big introvert. I am a homebody. I've been a wallflower pretty much my entire life. And so all of these songs are kind of like collections of stories throughout my life that I've lived moments as a wallflower, like you kind of are like in the background watching all these things happen, and it's like all the emotions, and sometimes it's like lonely, sometimes you're grateful for it. And so this album kind of touches on all that kind of stuff, and it feels like a project that I have always wanted to make, and I'm really excited to put it together and see where it goes. And as for like long term, I'd love to maybe do a tour sometime across Canada. I think that'd be really fun. And even if it's like a really grueling part of the job, I think it'd be great to try it at least once, even though I tend to be more of like a behind the scenes songwriter type of girl. But I think it would be a great experience to have at least once.
Awesome. Well, I think that's all I got for you. Thank you so much for your time here.
Yeah, totally.
All the social links will be down below. You can check her out on Spotify, Apple Music, anywhere you listen to music.
EMME.
All right. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye.